In this episode, we'll be learning about the power of art and creativity and how to utilize our limitless human potential from a multimedia artist, educator, and podcaster. Welcome to the show, Michael. How are you doing?
Hi, Toby. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Michael. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Mirror Talk. I really appreciate your
Mhm.
presence here today. And I'm looking forward to learning so much about art and creativity and how we could make use of all of that to, you know, get more out of our lives. But before we jump into all of that goodies, can you tell us about yourself? Can you tell us about how you got into art and creativity?
Okay. So, really quick, because all the other podcasts, I mean, you can read up on me anywhere anyway. So, uh, I um, I was a sick child. I was born in Vienna, Austria. I um, I got to school when I was 7,
Mm,
and when I was 7, I found out I'm dyslexic, and because of dyslexia, you can't read in front of the class. You stutter. You have a hard time memorizing, regurgitating. So you understand the problem, but you cannot regurgitate it like they want it to. So spelling was off, the writing. So I had to repeat 3 or 4 grades.
mm,
No, yeah, 3 grades, and then the fourth grade I left school. So I'm totally self-taught because I could never fit into systems. I'm still having a problem fitting into systems because I cannot adapt too much because of my dyslexia and dysgraphia. And I
mm,
found also out, 10 years ago that I have dysgraphia, which is a brain hand coordination problem.
mm,
So, so when I was about 30, so I lived day by day, like all the youth do. You try to belong, you try to be part of. And I had this hard contrast that I couldn't fit in. I couldn't fit into school. And and so I had to learn early to relate to people in a human way, not through the system, not being the best sports person or the best smartest person or the best, in foreign languages or anything. I had to be connecting to humans
mm,
on a human level because I had no problem with that.
mm.
I had no problem with human, but relating to humans within systems was the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wasn't aware of that. But when I wrote my last book, that was like 4 years ago, uh, I realized that what we understand of art is actually only the art products. Nobody cares about the human that created the art or the process that goes in. Just from the top, 1%, people want to know how Van Gogh did something or
Mm,
Wall, but not the normal person, even the one that makes money.
mhm,
They just wanted to see the project. Oh, are you doing a good thing? And then we all get that thing.
mm,
And and then I saw the context of my life. Because when I was 30, I looked at my resume and I saw all the stuff was art. And I knew that art was saving my life. So I said, why? And I kept being an artist afterwards. I was just conscious and called myself an artist.
mhm,
But I was so upset because I always heard the statistics that 97 to 99% of artists worldwide, not just in Europe, Germany, or America,
mm,
all over the world, are just existing around the poverty level. Now, then I ask you, what makes life worth living? Dancing, music, painting, art. Art gives you the closest than any system. Art gives you the feeling of heaven on earth, right?
mm,
Because when you see a beautiful dance production or you see a beautiful movie, you feel like, oh my God, I can relate to that, and it makes you feel good.
mm,
And I wrote this book, and then I found about the system and humanity, and I realized in the last year or so, I said, I'm a species of nature. We are still, people will forget that. When have you last heard that humans are a species of nature? Nobody. Nobody wants to say it, because, and then when you say, "Oh, you're a species of systems," nobody says that either, because we don't fit in. We created the system, so we can't be, And I saw that is important, that people can separate, because my life got like 50% easier just separating what I just said. Just, is this human adaptive, or is this system adaptive? What is relevant? And human relevance always needs to win, because we created the systems. We can change them to be more human relevant.
Yeah.
But we and 90%, I think 90% the problem that we have in systems right now are from systems. Are actually human problems that are created by systems. And when you have a human problem that is created by systems, there is no system that can fix a human problem. It's too limited. There's 8 billion people on this earth. Everybody has different eyes, different DNA, different fingerprint. So it's not like, a subspecies is that you have that your gender. A subspecies is that that look different. You have slanted eye. You have a different color. Or it's your sexual preferences. Those are sub issues. But you can't run a society of 8 billion people that are unique and say, that's just it. You are white, you are black, you are homosexual, you are this, you are that. And there's preference. Because if you're a straight white male, you are the king. And even if nobody says it, because we have to be all systemically politically correct, but everything functions like that. You know that. I mean, beautiful people get catered to. And there's nobody that says, oh, you shouldn't cater to beautiful people. But people, cater to beautiful people. We are humans. We can't take the human out of humans. We are a part of an animal. And that doesn't mean, in that, it is in nature, because nature is perfect, right? There's no wrong. In nature, you are born. It doesn't matter if you're the ant or the elephant. You're born, and you are worthy. That your existence means you're worthy to be existing, because nature doesn't have 80 lines that are too many and they need to be dying. Or it has just enough always. It's perfect. Nature always adapts and balances. And when you categorize, living beings, you can't keep a balance, because you're categorizing it on more value, less value. And since all systems that we created, not God, not anybody else, we created, need to sustain themselves, all the systems are based on a financial principle. Financial principle makes imbalance, brings the money to it's not the people, it brings the money to the richer people. If you make $5.50, a day, you have to live for $5.50 a day. You cannot save to play in the money market. You understand? You just survive. So there is no extra, but the financial principle works. Give me all your savings and I invest it, so it can work out good or bad. So the more money you have, the chances that you have more money, make more money, is higher than when you have no money.
Yeah, that's true.
So that works against nature, and we are unconscious. Nobody's fault. We just don't know, because you can't blame somebody that he did something that hurt somebody else when he doesn't know. So we don't know. And my mission is to make people aware. Just listen. There's no steps. Just be aware about yourself and your other fellow human beings.
Yeah.
And then you can use creating art. Creating art is the tool that helps us getting the real value of what we are, the worth. Because I could have died. I could have given up. I could have been on drugs. I could have killed myself. But because I had art creation, I created art, I got self-esteem. When you fix that, nobody can, everybody can say, okay, Toby, you have the worst podcast, or you're the worst podcast, or you are the best. You're the absolute. I've never seen anybody like Toby. Is the best thing,
Mm.
and it can be tomorrow, can be different, as you know.
Of course.
But nobody can take away that you did podcasts, that
Mm.
you created a podcast. That is something nobody can take away. And as much as they yell at you and say how bad or good you are,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that you created a podcast and others didn't,
Mm.
nobody can steal it from you. They can judge it, and you would be stupid to say, oh, okay, all this stuff that I did is nothing, but you created it. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what somebody else says, because the self-esteem is in you by creating something.
Mm.
And when you create art, it's the same thing. You're standing in front of a blank canvas or a silence,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a sound, and you have a rhythm, and you just paint the paint the song.
Mm-hmm.
And then people can say it's the worst song. Who cares? The creation process is so magical, as you know.
Mm.
Yeah, because you're
Yeah.
constantly tweaking even your podcast, right? You tweak it, you make it better.
Yes.
There's so much magic in this that what other people say is very irrelevant,
Mm.
and usually people say it, they don't create themselves. So the judgment of people saying this is a horrible car, this is horrible, they didn't create the car, and it doesn't matter how horrible the car is.
Mm-hmm.
For
Yeah.
me, if you're not a creator, don't judge myself. You might not like it. There's a difference to say this is the worst podcast or I didn't like the podcast.
Mm.
You don't
Yes.
have to like everything we create,
Mm-mm.
but you cannot judge it as this is the worst, that's the best. And it doesn't matter if it's a car, if it's clothes, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
When
Yeah.
people get value from saying, these jeans are horrible, this T-shirt is a shit.
Mm.
They get value, they get relevance.
Mm.
That's not relevance.
Mm-mm.
They can, if they say I wore it and it didn't fit my body, that's a different thing.
Yes.
And
That's true.
and so we act like systems.
Mm.
Humans don't act humane, because we can act humane. I just showed you, right?
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
can interact. We show everybody in this episode. You adapt to me, I adapt to you, and by that we can co-create a beautiful conversation.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's the
Wow.
magic.
Yes, yes. I'm so happy that that you made it I'm so happy that you made it of arts to, to stay away from drugs, to ill, to help you, to be like a companion for you, in at that stage of your life, basically, and you're still using it right now, even to help other people out there, to raise awareness, to even tap into their own potentials in life too.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's a great thing that you do. So, but if you could look back and reflect so far on what you've
Yeah.
done so far in the world of art and creativity, how would you describe your creative voice?
My creative voice is, and then I think we have to talk. You said something. We have to talk creative voice, and then you said the superpowers, right? You
Yeah,
want to talk about?
yes.
Okay, so creative voice. I have discovered my creative voice by creating. When you create one painting, that's a painting.
Mm.
And I remembered I couldn't find a painting, and I started painting because I couldn't find a painting I loved. I didn't find the colors and whatever,
Mm.
or they were like $20,000 the painting, so I didn't want to pay that. so I created my own paintings. I didn't, first I hated them. My friend said, hang them up and live with them,
Mm.
or put them away and look at it. And this is what I also teach. I say, even if you think it's horrible, put it away, and then after a time, look at it again.
Mm.
And my creative voice came when I painted more and more. And then the more expression you have, the more you find your voice. So I was a musician first, then I painted, and I found everything out what I do similar. You sense. AI can't figure it out, but you're sensing with all your senses. Okay, I'm strong. I'm loud like I am. I'm very outgoing.
Mm.
I am harmonious. I try to have impact with my music, with everything I express.
Mm.
So you probably found that nobody explains art like I do, or systems,
Mm-hmm.
because I try to find my own. I observe myself,
Mm-hmm.
and then I know I'm. For example, if you do my paintings, very strong color contrasts, bright colors, flashy, loud. So when you go in a room and there's my painting, you can't look at the design. You first look at my painting, and then you look at the design of the room. So
Yeah.
that's who I am, even with people, And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying, hey, look at me and blah blah blah. That's who I am.
Mm.
And and the same in music, strong coming on, strong rhythm, very exact strong rhythm in the background.
Mm.
And that's my. I like that. I like to be awake, to wake up, be aware. I don't
Mm.
like to manipulate you. I don't like to lure you in and then surprise you or something. I surprise you right away,
Mm. Mm.
So that's my voice. And then in 2015 I created an artist movement that's called the Self-Aware Artist Movement in
Mm.
Laguna Beach. And what this does is, because I found when I talk to a lot of artists, and I'm an artist literally since 14, 15,
Mm.
and I talked to a lot of artists all over the world, and I found out when I asked them, what is your voice? Like you asked me, so what
Mm.
is your voice?
Yes.
And the artists cannot say it.
Mm.
Even famous artists couldn't explain what is their unique expression.
Mm.
They couldn't verbalize. They knew it probably, they felt it, but they couldn't verbalize it. And as long as, and this is what I found, and this is why the movement is where artists meet with each other, and they talk about their pieces, and then they say, okay, I see that. So you explain your piece of art and said this, it's strong, and everybody agrees. So if I say it's strong, and they say that's not strong, and I see the feedback because other people feel what I say. So if I can
Mm.
verbalize it,
Mm.
then it's true. It's like when you verbalize, what are you good, Toby, at? And you know what you're good at, you can verbalize it, and I can say, okay, that's true. It's like somebody saying, I'm a CEO, and you don't feel it that he's a CEO, right? You
Yeah.
laugh at him. How
Mm.
if he's a CEO, I'm three times the CEO. But or if he's everybody wants a leader today. This is a big thing. Leader is everything. Nobody wants to be a good worker. Everybody wants to be a leader. And leadership is completely distorted. A good worker is a good worker, and they know they're a good worker.
Mm.
A
Mm.
leader, everybody has a different view on leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a leader, natural leader, my whole life,
Mm.
even though I had no system thing, because I keep people in balance. I'm not forcing them. I'm not doing this. I'm lifting a team up and say, we can do it.
Mm.
And there's no scolding or anything. And I've never had problems being a leader. I never had it. I didn't have to study it. Now everybody studies leadership and how to manipulate people. You don't need to manipulate people. Just
Yeah.
trust your feeling.
Mm.
You have all the senses. Just trust your feeling. And you're not above them. You're part of the team. You just keep them balanced and
Mm.
see. So this is when you're verbalizing, and this is how the voice goes. Now let's go to the superpower. Is there not any questions on the voice?
No, I mean you answered perfectly well. I mean it's so wonderful. But how do
Okay.
we then use this creative voice, for example, of ours to access our superpower and make use of our superpower? Yes, that'll be the next
Yeah.
step.
So also, if you have a voice, you can express yourself. Once it's verbalized, it's true. Once it's just an idea, it's nothing. So when I verbalize something and you can identify with that what I said, then I'm true. But if I'm saying, you often see that when people date, they say
Mm.
they're all that, whatever, then they undress, and then there's no, it just, you're vulnerable,
Mm. Mm.
and when you express yourself correctly, not lower, but correctly, people appreciate that.
Mm.
People, and you connect, and that is the most important. So
Mm.
now the superpowers that we have are following. I tell you the superpowers and then I go into it. So, creativity. So the eagle sees sharper, the dolphin swims better, the elephant is stronger. The human can create.
Mm.
None of them can create, but we don't see as good as an eagle. We don't swim as good as a dolphin, and we're not as strong as an elephant.
Mm.
But we can create. And look what we did in this earth.
Mm.
We created, New York was built by humans. That wasn't built by space aliens, like they say the pyramids are. But so we know we created New York. We know we created Nike, Apple, all these brands, Tesla. We created all these things. Medical, medical science crazy. Before, everybody died at 40. Now we can die, at 70 or something. So we have a great strive of creating things, on having creative solutions. Because sometimes you are in a problem and you have to literally get people together, or it takes very long. But all of a sudden, one person has a solution, and we can fix that problem. We can not fix it because we can go beyond it. I don't like fixing, because then it stays static. I like to go, okay, when we do this, we can go beyond that problem.
Yes.
And so creativity is our number one. Whatever you want to do, if you want to do a podcast, a painting, a car company, a shoe company, anything has to be created. And even if you say, I want to be an accountant, you have to create how you present yourself, because not every accountant, even accountant is a very static position. Not every accountant is the same, So you have to create your image, basically.
Yeah.
And in that alone, we are all the same souls, but in physical, how is my soul represented? My image, in the physical. And so that's number one. Number two is what we just proved, that two humans, they're not the same color. They're from different, have never met each other, and can just, by feeling each other out, can just merge and be stronger than you alone and me alone, and create a beautiful conversation. So the human dialogue, the healthy the human dialogue, not the system. System dialogue is, I'm right, you're wrong. You're a Republican, I'm a Democrat. You know what I mean? That's system dialogue. And that's why dialogue doesn't work in the systems. But human dialogue, if you want to talk to somebody and you really want to talk to somebody, you talk to that person. You don't need to have 3 steps. You don't have to do anything. You just talk to that person.
Yeah.
And even if the person is disturbed, you know how to make him comfortable to have a conversation. And sometimes you don't have a conversation because we have free will, and people might say, I don't want to talk to you, Toby.
True.
But,
of course.
but and that's fine. But systemically, we shouldn't have a choice. We have to talk to each other, and that's, that's crazy. So that's why I say, get it. What is human relevant? What is system relevant? We are all good, and there's very little problems in human relevance. When we interact in the system relevance, there's way more problems.
Yeah. Yes.
So, and the third one is also what we show, the adaptability. It doesn't matter, it would have better if you would be a woman, because then I can say you are everything against me. I'm a white male, and you are, an African American, or I don't. I hate this whole thing. You're black. You're black human that is a female. I would have preferred that, even, because I want to show that it has nothing to do with your gender, race, or sexuality. We're just humans. This couldn't work if system definition and categorization is that we are different. We're not different. We look different. We are not different. And I've lived everywhere. Humans are not different. They have different, customs. But we are not different. On the human level, in the system of, being from Africa or being from Europe, we have different traditions, but
Yeah.
that's a system. That is
Mm-hmm.
a system. From a human aspect, there's no difference.
Mm.
But the systems want to define that you are a certain way and I'm a certain way. And
Yeah.
that's bullshit. That is a systemic definition of two humans.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say, screw all sexual preference, color, race, gender. It doesn't matter. The power is that humans and humans can work together.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
don't need steps or systemic sold a course that I can talk to you. I did 200 interviews all over the world. I never had a problem.
Mm.
And it's not me. It's not because I did a course, because I couldn't go to school.
Mm.
It's just humans. It's about human. That is, and we're all the same. And we cannot allow that we let us influence, but we do because we don't understand our third superpower, which is adaptability. The adaptability we need that we can fit together. So even if I was born in Europe and you were born in Africa, that you and I can communicate and that we can interact. So that's we have the adaptability. So I cannot come and say you have to exactly act like what I expect, and I cannot like what you expect. So we adapt, and without adaptability, we couldn't survive wars. We
No.
couldn't survive, COVID. We couldn't survive uh, um, slavery. We
Mm-hmm.
couldn't survive uh, racism. We couldn't survive anything
Mm.
because we adapt. And that's how we make the human vehicle work.
Yeah.
And the big blindness is that systems work because humans adapt to them.
Mm.
They don't work because we're just participating, but they want you to believe that.
Mm.
If there's no systems tomorrow, we have a harder time. I'm not against systems. I'm just saying make systems human adapt. But if there's no systems tomorrow, we will survive. If there's
Mm.
no humans tomorrow, systems are irrelevant. There's no reason why we have systems. There's no reason
Mm.
why we have Africa, Europe, or anything. Why
Yeah.
we have a bank. And it's no humans, no systems.
Mm. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. I mean, it's a very important point that you made there. I mean, we have to be able to adapt to systems around us. And I'm so happy that what I've just learned right now is that art and creativity, helps us to get closer to humanity and helps us
Yeah,
understand even the surrounding, the nature, our
yeah,
habitats, nature even much more
yeah,
better. Helps us to, know why we are here and what we are here for,
yeah,
and helps us even get to know our superpower and make use of the superpower to make even the world a better place to live in for everyone. Yeah.
yeah.
But one thing I would love to ask is that, for someone out there who is asking, okay, Michael, this sounds so amazing. I would love to, be much more adaptable. I would love to, get and use my superpower. But how can I access the creative part of my life? How can I become much more creative? How can I go into art and creativity?
Awareness trumps everything.
Mm.
Because that's why I say you just listen a couple times to this episode, you will get it, and then
Mm.
apply it in life. Then say, okay, feel I have a problem right now, and what is that? Is that because I'm afraid of losing my job? That's a system problem, or is the child sick? That's a human problem.
Mm.
And you know that we feel guilty when our child is sick and we can't go to work. We feel guilty. We should never feel guilty. We
Mm.
should call, be responsible. I can't go. My child is sick, and nobody should give you a bad attitude or emotion
Mm.
because we created systems. It's not systems created your child. You created your child. And you need
Mm.
to take care of your child first, or
Yes.
your wife. Or, that's just because without humans, we don't need systems.
Mm.
They're irrelevant.
Mm.
And how you get that is the awareness. There's no steps, there's nothing. The awareness that I give you an example why art is better. First of all, don't. This is very important. Whatever you create, be conscious what you're creating. So when you set the table for dinner,
Mm.
Be aware how you place the fork, the knife, the thing. Enjoy that process. Don't just throw everything in and say just eat. So enjoy that, because everything, when you select some clothes for you, say, why am I choosing a green shirt? Why am I choosing a red shoes? Why do I do this? And just be aware. It's not, you don't need an answer. It's just, okay, why? Why am I doing? Oh, I'm doing this. And I always choose the color red. Why is that? So you start finding your voice, even though you don't art create. You say, I love red. I love the combination of red and green. I love this. And I like the classical music. I like hip hop too, but I like the classical music. It makes me relaxed. So when you listen to it, also when you absorb art, you learn. Now I give you the power of art. It's always bringing us to the blueprint of what is possibly humanly possible. So in a company, system company, you have the CEO, the CFO, all the C level, and they have no idea or most of them have no idea what the person on the bottom on the conveyor belt that glues together the shoe, that makes the iPhone, feels, does, how he likes the environment of working, he has joy. They don't care. Do we have joy to go to work or not? That job needs to be done. When you go into theater, you can have still two leads, like a CFO, a CEO. You have the two stars. But if anybody in that orchestra doesn't work, and when the lighting doesn't work, when the backstage, when the painting, the, what do you call it, the pictures on the back, the scene, when the scene doesn't work, when anything doesn't work, the whole thing collapses. Very clear to see is that in a symphonic orchestra, when the conductor is the best conductor ever, and the first violinist is the best violinist, so the whole theater is full. If the oboist screws up or the flutist screw up, the whole performance is gone.
Yeah.
See, that's why it shows you what's possible. It is possible. Art shows every day how much it is possible that humans work together in harmony and balance. Are there personal discrepancy? Yes. But when they come do the job, it's harmonious. It's one team. It's one, because there's not one, the leader. It's if the leader cannot shine, if the whole team doesn't work in harmony. And that's closest to nature.
Yeah.
That's like the blueprint of nature. And that's what we recognize when we listen to art or do art or create, but we are not conscious. And that's why I say awareness is the key, that somebody tells you the story first, like you and I, we're telling the story right now. And then now it can transform you, because once you're aware, the change happens automatically.
Yes, I love that. Once we are aware, once we are conscious, then the
Yeah,
story happens automatically.
yeah,
Then we can
yeah,
tap into even our potentials, our biggest
yeah,
potentials, and yes, become superpowers.
yeah, yes, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Wow, Michael, I've learned so much from you already from this conversation. I'd just love you to tell us about your podcast, the Smart of Arts
Okay,
podcast.
so
Yes.
if you like this episode, I just don't talk that much. I just my podcast is 20 to 30 seconds. I don't have guests. I just have a quote for you to become aware, with a question that you need to answer for yourself, not for anybody else. So it's a quote. So art is for example, art is the strongest form of experiencing heaven on earth. And then the question would be, when was the last time you experienced through art that it was heavenly? And those are 100. Now it comes out every week, and it's very short, but it makes you become aware. Becomes aware of your humanness, of your superpowers, and of your way of creating, and to milk your creation, all the things you create. We are all creators.
Mm.
That you milk that, and by that you become more self-esteem, more self-confidence. You find things that you never knew about yourself. And that's why art is a superpower. Creating art creating is the highest, because you create art with no focus on creating a new shoe, an iPhone, or anything.
Mm.
So art is just, you stay in front of a blank canvas or silence and you create something.
Mm.
It comes through you. And
Mm.
that conversation that you have with your non-physical self, what would be the best? So you get an inspiration. I'm going to do a podcast, but how am I going to do this? And you have a conversation, and then you create this podcast.
Mm.
But you're not asking somebody else. I mean, you can ask somebody what you think about that, but really you have it with you, because if the person says, make a podcast that is like this, that doesn't sound like me at all, So you basically have a conversation with yourself, with your non-physical, and the product or the art is that product of that conversation. See, when you look just by that is a great, when you look at art, not, oh, is it great? Do I like it or not? It's irrelevant.
Mm.
Look at art that this is a conversation between the artist and his non-physical self.
Mm.
That is so much deeper,
Yeah.
than saying, oh, it's just this, it's just that. I like it, I don't like it.
Mm.
It's irrelevant if you like it or not. Don't
That's
look
true.
at art that you don't like. Look at art that you like. And then look at art and say, this is a conversation. Like your music. This is the product of a conversation that somebody had with their non-physical self. When you
Mm.
sleep, you're non-physical, right? So the
Yes.
non-physical is the one thing that that you're not. So you have a non-physical part and a physical part. And that's
Mhm.
why it's also, art is such an interface to let you allow to explore those
Yeah.
two parts of you.
Mm. You get to,
It's a beautiful thing. Oh, Toby, you're a great thing. I haven't talked a lot of things like that because you were here, and I want to let listeners know. Sometimes listening is doing more than I'm just painting on the canvas. You give me a canvas, and I just paint.
yeah.
But I know we did it together. I know I didn't do it alone.
Yeah.
And by that, and it's not what I did is more worth or yours. See, that's just all system thinking.
Mm.
We
Mm.
co-created something beautiful right now.
Mm. Yes.
And that I'm happy. I don't need to have 1 million viewers, or I mean, I want it, of course. But even if you don't get it, what we created magic here,
I believe that,
right?
and I'm so proud of us.
I
I'm so
know,
proud of.
exactly. That should be your
Mm.
answer. I'm proud that we found each other. I mean,
Mm.
how much is that? The possibility. You're in Germany. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm here, and
Mm.
I've lived in Vienna, but I live in Jena,
Yeah.
and we met each other. 8 billion people, you and I. You
Mm.
cannot see the magic in that, and then it is harmonious. It's not fighting. It's not I'm right, you are right,
Mhm.
and that's why creation is the superpower. That is the first, and
Yes.
dialogue is the second, and
Mm.
adaptability is the third.
Mm. Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate this. If there's someone out there who has like maybe more questions to ask you or wants to get across to you, get in contact with you, what's the best way to connect and work with you?
MichaelM.com. There's all my social. There's my LinkedIn. There's
Mm.
all this stuff. So you
Mm.
just connect to MichaelM.com. Michael with 2 L's. MichaelM.com,
Mm.
and then you find everything. And there's my music. There's my paintings. There's my podcast. There's my books. Everything is there.
Yes, I mean, Michael, there's so much that we could have talked about, but I mean, what I've learned from you today is enough to just keep us pushing forward and help us to even explore that
Yeah.
limitless human potentials that we do have. So I really appreciate this conversation with you. Thank you so much, and yeah, thank you for making this magic happen.
Thank you, Toby.
Yes. So that's officially the end of the podcast recording. How was that for you?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Toby, I